everybody, we are going to be covering 5 things I wish I had known before jumping into season 5. Yes, another season is upon us, and there was a handful of things, even with all the research I did, that were surprising, actually really nice for the most part. And I want to show you those, what's going on with some of the new features, and what are things that were just absolutely cool to see in the game. The very first one that I want to show you is something that I hope is not a bug and that they're going to fix it, because it was a pleasant surprise. I was a little shocked. As soon as I got any tempers, you know, earlier when you're leveling up, you eventually get told that you have this quest, and you go pick up a temper that's in that chest right by the blacksmith. You go in and you get your first recipes there. But when I came in, and even in early game, if I was in tempering and I threw anything in there that I hadn't used yet, let's put this one up here. When I click on these, instead of just having a few tempers that I'd already seen, that I already picked up while running Helltides, I had all of them. You know, I think there's additional ones past these, but the ones I saw last season, they're here and they're in legendary form. And so these are the highest ones. These are the ones that even if you got an early version of it, you would have to go pick it up again in World Tier 3. You'd have to pick it up again in World Tier 4 to get the higher and higher levels. So now it is just completely ready, available. This makes you so powerful. Even the accidental ones that we could get if we were just leveling in World Tier 1 or 2 before we want to do the capstone, even just the ones that would randomly fall that weren't that big, putting those on there has made the passage through the capstones just absolutely incredible. We could easily go 15 plus levels early and have it be an absolute breeze by that, and some of the getting some aspects on your gear. Well, it didn't have to be perfect, but tempers made all the difference. And so the fact that we are getting this right away was like a really cool thing. I was like, okay, you can do some cool things. Now, at first, the resource is still an issue, so grinding, breaking down some stuff to make sure you have some pieces to do it, even the money to do it, obviously allows you to do that by the time you get to capstone, which is where I think it's most important. But the fact that we have all of these right away when they open up is so insane. So then the next thing that was a pleasant surprise is something I had briefly heard about, but I wasn't sure. So the Infernal Hordes was the thing that they tested in the PCR. And I did not like it. If you haven't seen my video on it, I was not very pleased. I generally don't complain a lot about what's coming out. They're testing things. I want them to do that. But this one just felt like it could have been so much better, and it just wasn't. So they did, and they say, hey, we're going to do a mini version of that for early leveling. And I was like, okay. I don't even know if I'm going to even do them. I'm just going to level through and not worry about it. But I did do the season quest, and one of the things you do is you run across one of these. So down here, as you're going through the normal seasonal quest items, you'll end up down here in this OwnMode breach. And this is a hell breach. And what this is there's 3 areas. First, there's like the starting area. You have to do like kill 5 of these things or blow up 5 of these things. And then you get a choice before leaving from the second area, or for the first area to the second area. And that can either make the challenge more difficult with some reward increase as well. So if you take the highest challenge, by the end, you actually get the, you know, one of the biggest prizes you can for this. For some reason, it's like the first one has 4 or 5, and then the second one has 4 of the same thing, and you do that. And again, you get a choice at the end. There's 2 choices. This is now saying what's going to happen in the boss chamber. So you've already made some one choice that's going to affect all the monsters, and then you made a second choice that directly affects the boss you're about to face. When you go in there, there's one that says like, I think it's like 2 points, and one that's like 7 points. If you take the 7 one and you take the higher one at the beginning, you are maxed. And you go in and you kill the boss, chests appear. There's 3. There's one that's worth 20. There's one that's like 10, and I think 3. And you pick. When I opened the 20, the first time through, I blasted through it. I hit the 20, and I got 2 uniques in World Tier 2. This was freaking nuts, and they were usable. I had seen more uniques last season in the early World Tiers, but not usually it was so random that it never didn't actually matter for my build. But this time it was really cool. So a lot of great gear came out of it, but it was just way more rewarding than I expected it to be. So the other thing that was really surprising in this is that the seasonal quests actually felt really good for leveling. I would say that just by doing the quest line, I was able to spend a decent amount of my early leveling in World Tier 2 and 3, trying to get to at least level 53 to break into World Tier 4. That was my early game. And so by doing just the quest and kind of following along, I had a decent amount of rewards, and I found that it was a nice amount of experience. I remember in World Tier 3 thinking, hey, I got to go try all these things. By the time I just tried the stuff, by the time I just finished what was in the quest, checked a few things out, I was already level ready for the capstone, for the second capstone. And definitely in World Tier 2, I mean, we are leveling a lot faster, so I barely noticed. Just to do a few of those things, do my class quest, I was already ready to hit the capstone for capstone 1, just blasting through it. But this is the first time I felt like where the seasonal quests themselves had enough impact on my early leveling, and where I could spend most of my time there and get a good result, and a rather fast leveling still. Like, I still felt like it was a good speed. The other thing on the backside of that is going to be this Mother's Gift. So if you remember last season, if you guys played, we get these special rewards after unlocking points. Points last season were only in Hell Tides. These are going to be in anywhere. So, which is really nice. So you're like, even when I wasn't just running Hell Tides and I was doing all these extra things, I was able to unlock these chests as well and keep getting really awesome, like caches of cool items, uniques, rares, or legendaries when I a really awesome feature. It just felt really good. I felt like we were being well rewarded. There was lots of things to go after and do. It wasn't just like, let's go grind the same thing over and over again. Now, they did unlock, or they did change it up a little bit, the seasonal quest as you progress through them. So these are normal caches like we had, and those will unlock with the points. These can unlock with the points, but until you do that quest, they don't unlock. So you can't open them yet. And another thing, there's always been a lot of questions about, like, when do we open these? I find that you're kind of blitzing through the game. Leveling is even faster, so you're moving even faster through it, that there's really two major places where I consider, and maybe a third with some of the new features. So as you're going through these and opening these, the first one that really makes a difference, if you're just blasting on these points and you do this in World Tier 2, well, this first one says Sacred. This literally gives you sacred legendary items. So when you open this, you are going to get items. It even tells you the item power level. So there's no guessing what it is. When you open this, if you are before level 35, it just becomes something you can't use yet, and you'll have to wait. So there's no real reason to rush it. I time it where I open whatever I have already open to me. I just time it so that right before I do the capstone 1 to get into World Tier 3, I then open a bunch and just get a big burst of power. And then I switch out whatever gear, I do my tempering, I add my aspects, and I'm ready to go, like, cleanly move through the capstone. And about 15 levels earlier than they recommend. So like 35 is about when I easily blast through it, and there's people doing it way earlier than that. I like 35, and the reason I do is because of this sacred item. Level 35 is when you can open that, or when you can use it when you get into World Tier 3. So open this one, you can use it right away if you're 35, or anything else that drops there. So it's just a much better entry. Now, this again happens at 10. This is where they start switching over and you'll start seeing ancestral legendaries. So World Tier 4, when you finally get there. Level 55 is the first level you can open these or use any of the ancestral items. So waiting until right around there, saying the capstone before you go in, is a good place to have it, or right after you get through the capstone, either one. I do like the burst of power of anything before that, but if I want to be able to use these items, I have to be afterwards. So any of these chests leading up to capstone 2, I might do the same thing, open a bunch of them, whatever is remaining from the previous capstone I did, then I'm ready to open these right as on the other side. So then there is another thing I just want you guys to pay attention to, because at the end, it was kind of disappointing if you waited on these and opened at the very end when you got to 100, thinking that would how it affect it. These are all set. So at this point, you can see that one's going to be an item at 850, wherever it does tell you. That one's going to be 800. And then these down here are going to be 925. So these are max. These are the top item level that you can get. Now, this one is a purple chest, so I'm wondering, I do not know for a fact, but it's saying an ancestral mythic unique. I hope that means that they're actually going to drop the legendary that drops here at 925 is a uber unique, which would be awesome. But they are giving you the resplendent spark. You get 4 of those. Then you can actually unlock one of your choice. So there may be a chance it's dropping one, and then you also get to that 1 point towards it. The rest of the resplendent sparks can come from playing other classes or other characters that you make this season and getting all of the Mother's Gift rank. So by doing this numerous times, you can get all your points through that. That's probably one of the cleanest ways. Now, faster is probably just to keep building up one of your builds at the end and then start taking down the tormented bosses. Again, resplendent sparks, you can get enough to get your first unique through that. So it's really nice. So these are going to be then guaranteed items that are best in slot. So whenever you unlock these, very worthwhile. Just go check them and see what you got. They may make a massive difference to your build at that time. Now, this is actually one of my favorite things that had came about in this season. And it's just, I do like things that give us reward for taking on more challenges. A lot of times my issue is not hey, things are too hard. It's that they're not rewarding enough to make them worth doing. And everywhere where they can make something where if you are willing to go take on the challenge, that you get a massive reward for it, I think is a major improvement to the game. And so one of the things they did, I don't know if you guys know this, but for a long time, the experience cap if you were fighting a monster at least 10 levels above, you were kind of capped in with the major block of experience that you're going to get. So there was no reason to fight a level 20, even if you could. So even if you really spent the time to dial in your gear and really think through your Paragon board and get something that was just freaking incredible, playing a monster higher than 10 levels, it really didn't matter. So what we noticed is, like, you know, we had the Mind Cage last season, and you were able to then put one in and then have that 10 level gap, which also helped you get like monster level that dropped full 925 items as well. So that was a cool bonus. But this time you are going to get level or experience beyond that. You are actually going to get experience cap is now at 30. So you can actually stack multiple Mind Cages if you're going to be running in Hell Tides, or you can just do Nightmare Dungeons that are much higher level than you currently are. So then if you want a major experience boost, especially in like World Tier 3, you can jump into Nightmare Dungeons and just play high enough level above you as you kind of open them up. As long as your character can take it, you can get a massive increase in experience and have just a major advantage in rushing to that level 100, where really I think Blizzard is trying to figure out how to make the experience of leveling just the beginning of a thing. That once you get to the level and you have all your points and really know it, there's still more for you to do in endgame that is rewarding and actually makes a bigger difference to what you really want to do as a final build. And they're definitely going to be doing things to speed that up, as you've noticed. They're also, it sounds like they're going to decrease the level from 100 to 60. So this is coming, all this experience boost, a chance to like really challenge yourself for higher levels, to have even more of an experience boost. It can allow, I think, people to move really fast if they want to spend extra time a little bit on their build and really think through it. They can do some incredible things. Now, the other surprising thing for me this season was I was almost certain, because of what I just told you, the XP cap moving that or being that much higher, I thought, okay, then I'll do Nightmare Dungeons. When I found that out about the experience, I was like, I'm definitely going to do Nightmare Dungeons as soon as I get to World Tier 3. We already have the experience boost from the events, and now we are also going to get the chance to keep pushing the level higher and higher if we're doing really well there. And so any of these Nightmare Dungeons that we pull up, we can start those right away at 35, and then you get the one level higher every time you pass through, so you can keep just one Nightmare Dungeon at a time moving up that level. And I think this might be at the right pace, but I was certain that I was going to do that because it was just going to be the most rewarding experience, one of the faster. And if I did temper my equipment and got the right aspects on early, usually I don't like spend that much time with it in World Tier 3 because I'm just trying to get to World Tier 4 as fast as possible. But here it actually mattered because it may dramatically increase the speed of my leveling. I ended up not liking this. I actually switched back to doing more just focusing on the seasonal stuff and then Hell Tides, because when I got into World Tier 3, I was at level 35. Well, yeah, 35. So I could equip this Sacred Gear, so that was cool. But when I completed a Nightmare Dungeon, I did not get to use the glyphs because you need to be level 50. I'm also not dropping any of the glyphs. The other thing I noticed is that the gear in Nightmare Dungeons does not drop legendaries nearly as often as I saw in Hell Tides, especially running the Maiden. And so by the time all these things stacked up, I was going to do that. I'm like, this doesn't seem right. And I went over and tested the Hell Tides really fast. I blitzed through like 10 levels like it was nothing, and I got a ton of gear, got all my sacreds really fast. I don't think it would have happened nearly as fast in Hell Tides. I think that there's still an argument to be made for that the experience might be better, but between that and having lots of legendary options for my gearing and just all the stuff I had to do with the season anyway, I don't see a need to do that right away. When you hit level 50, I think that might be the place where it tips over again for me. And I definitely did. I went and did some Nightmare Dungeons, start leveling up my early glyphs that I did find. And so that was helpful. But this was kind of shocking. I thought that they had nailed it, that we were like, okay, Nightmare Dungeons are so worth it. That we may even like be able to level a little bit faster in World Tier 3 by focusing on them. The other thing is, like, I know that both have the level 30 gap. So whether I did these or I was just pushing on Hell Tides or pushing Hell Tides, running just Mind Cages. Where are my Mind Cages? There. I only have one. Yeah, see, that's what I expected. I only have one so far. So this isn't going to make, I can't run the 3 anyway. So once I got to 10 levels higher, that would be, not that big of a deal. I can't stack further. So, and I could easily do that in Nightmare Dungeons if I was doing it. But I figured I wasn't going to be dropping a lot of these, which is true. I'm already through World Tier 3 and I have 1. So that wasn't going to work. I haven't used any. So that is not the best strategy necessarily if I could use it. So I thought Nightmare Dungeons, definitely the way. Now, if you're hardcore, I do have another reason to lean towards Nightmare Dungeons. When you first come in, let's say that you come in early and you're level 35, and you want to, like, the World Tier 3 is like level 50. It's like 55 plus actually. And so when I get in there and I'm like fighting, if I do the Hell Tides also has another bump of a few levels. So now you're like, if you come in at 15 levels early, it's 20, then 23. That does make a significant difference to the chances of being one shot when you don't have sacred gear on yet. So Nightmare Dungeon, just those few levels difference might make a big enough difference to then come in and then be easily able to handle it and get your sacreds online. A little slower, I think, because they don't do a ton of, the drops aren't as prominent, but that is a solid way to do it. Now, one last thing that surprised me, and it was something that, again, I ran because of the seasonal, was the Infernal Hordes. I did like them so much more. The reason I like them, and I think that they're something you should definitely consider, which I did not originally. I'm gonna wait till end game. I'm like, when I'm thinking the pit, or then it's worth pushing on those. They massively increase the amount of rewards you get for the things. The rounds are faster. The rewards are higher. It was an amazing, amazing place to get a ton of materials, especially if this is your first playthrough, you're not playing an alt. Tons of material that was available through those. Those are a little harder because you can't just run them when you want. You have to get one of these, the Infernal Hordes Compass. They said the drop rate's going to be increased, but still there's a limit. They were even saying, like, if you're playing pretty full out, you're only going to see like one of these, or like a few of these an hour. Like, so that's kind of rough. And so I would definitely, if you do get these, they're worthwhile, especially for building up stockpile of mats materials right away. But if not, then, you know, hold on to it. Just complete this. If you don't know where these are, seasonal quests, just complete through it. You'll get your first and have a chance to take it up. So if you're also playing a build guide this season, which a lot of people do, a lot of players want to check out the new meta or try a build that they haven't tried themselves yet. Definitely check out this video where I go through the build guide mistakes you don't want to make. This will help you basically just make the best decisions on the build, know how to make sure it's right for you, and enjoy the crap out of the season.